They're heat transfers. These are Avery heat transfers. They're available at Walmart. There is one thing that I do that most people don't have the ability to do, and we'll show you that later. It's over there. I think it's off screen at the moment, but we use a heat press. It's also known as a clam. And that really makes the quality of my transfers much better, well, actually far better than they would be if you did them with an iron. My heat press runs at about 375 degrees, and as you see, it has a big square area which presses down on the shirts with pressure. It has a little bit of pressure, spring-loaded pressure, that pushes the transfer into the knit of the shirt. Okay, so we're going to take one of these shirts right here that's blank, okay, and we're going to put the transfers on it. Like I said, here's Avery's transfers. They're not all that expensive. They're okay, and you get, what did I get in here? 12 sheets. I don't really remember how much they were. I'm sorry, but okay. So the transfers look like this, and right now I just want to talk a little bit about the transfer itself. The artwork that you want to choose for this kind of transfer is like this. This is really the ideal type of artwork, like this guitar here or this guy here. And the reason why is because it's a solid shape. A solid shape. It has no blank space inside the design. No white areas inside the design. And the reason why you don't want that is because, for instance, if I took this entire transfer without cutting out the guitar, what happens is the transfer, all in these white areas, the transfer lays down adhesive on the shirt. And as a result, you can see it as a perimeter. You would see this square on the shirt. And it's kind of hideous. And you can get away with white areas. Now this area is actually a little bit yellow, but you can get away with white areas if they're surrounded in borders. Then it doesn't really look so bad. You can get away with it. But what you don't want to do is leave white areas like in here and in here. Now this is a more advanced design that is probably pushing the limits of a heat transfer in that I have to cut this out. What we call it in the industry, in the t-shirt industry, is you weed it. Okay, so I have to weed out all these white areas, even in here in the center. And what I would really want to use is an X-Acto blade with the spinning head, but all I have is a box knife today. So I'm going to be cutting this one out with a box knife in here, and then in here, and scissors around wherever else I can. This one here I will cut out entirely with scissors. And it's a very easy one to do. This, like I said, is the ideal transfer to do. Or this one. Any kind of solid shapes where your white portions are locked inside of the solid design. Okay? And when you do it like this, it's awesome. They're really cool. Nobody knows they're heat transfers. They're very cool. This one, this King Tut funeral mask or burial mask that I'm wearing right now, you hear that? Well, that's because it's brand new. I just did this the other day. I didn't wash it yet. So what we do is you need to wash these shirts before you wear them. I'm wearing this one to show you as a demonstration. I'm just showing you what it looks like. But before I actually wear this shirt for real, out and about, and get it all, you know, warm, I will wash it inside out with cold water. First wash only. After that, you can wash it hot water any way you want, just no bleach. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop and I'm going to cut these out. And the next shot you'll see, we'll set up near the heat press, and I'll show you a little bit about how that's done. Now, before I do that, I guess I should mention how do you generate this artwork. Like I said, you collect it, you can scan it. You have to have a little bit of computer skills as far as either using Photoshop or perhaps even Windows Photo Gallery. This one here, I printed straight out of Windows Photo Gallery. And in my printer settings, I chose T-shirt transfer. And what it does is it flips it, okay? Because remember that everything you do on the T-shirt transfer, as you'll notice, this is backwards. But when I turn it around and lay it on the shirt and peel the backing off, it will be forwards. So if you use Windows Photo Gallery, make sure that you, first of all, unclick size to page, because oftentimes it'll chop off a little bit. And also, do the printer settings for heat transfer or t-shirt transfer. Okay? And if anybody has any questions or anything about the details that I just ran through right now very quickly, just send me an email, message me through YouTube, or you can leave it in the comments, and I will respond to all questions about the heat transfer process. Okay? So let's cut, and we'll go. I'm going to cut the transfers out, and then I'm going to show you what they look like before we get ready to set up on the press. Okay, so I'm back, and I want to mention right away that you have to be very careful with the heat transfers. They're very delicate. Once you print this on here, it's like this. If you so much as scrape that with your fingernail, or when you're cutting around with the scissors and you go into the design and scrape it a little bit, it comes right off. Okay, so they're very fragile, and it's actually a good idea to print them and let them dry an hour or so. Let the ink really set into it, and before you press it. Okay, and be very careful when you're cutting. You could just totally cut wrong and ruin all the cutting that you've done beforehand. Like, for instance, on this one was very, very, very difficult. I risk screwing it up right now, but this was very difficult to cut out, and I did fairly well. I chopped a tiny piece off of the L here, but fortunately it's in such a manner that I think once it's transferred, you won't even notice it at all. Okay, and this one here not only is difficult to cut out, but it will be a little bit difficult to peel the backing off of because it's not one sheet. It will tear at each letter probably as I go along, and I'll have to work quickly to get it off before the transfer cools, otherwise the paper will not peel off. This is what they call a hot peel, meaning that the backing is pulled all away from the shirt before it cools down while it's still hot, hence hot peel. Okay, so that's what we do. We cut them out. You can cut, as you can see, you can cut pretty close. Okay, I don't know how good of a shot that is. I don't have a cameraman. And this little white outline, is, well, I don't know, what, a 1/16, an eighth of an inch? Not an eighth, I don't know. It's very tight, and it doesn't have to be perfectly straight because once you transfer it, you won't see that very much. It's only if you left a big space, you really see it. Okay, the little outline that's around here, you won't really notice at all. Okay, this is another shirt that I did. This one's very old. Okay, it's been washed many, many times, and okay, you hear the difference? This one's soft. It's almost like it was screen printed. You can't really tell by looking. A really experienced screen printer, such as myself, would be able to touch it and feel it and do certain tests with it to see. One test to see if something's a transfer is to do a stretch test. And you can see how it pulls apart. This one here, honestly, actually seems to pull apart quite nicely, and it's hard to tell. This one is a very good transfer. Okay, so when they're done right, it's very difficult to tell that they're transfers. Okay, so we're waiting for the press to heat up to 375 degrees. We press the shirts for 15 seconds, and what we do when we put this on the press, which I'll show you all that, what we do is we delint it with a roll of tape, with the tape pulled around backwards, like you're getting cat hair off or something. If you have one of those pet rollers, those are great, and you delint it before you put the transfer down. Otherwise, you can lock in hairs or lint or an eyelash or something that falls down there. It'll get stuck between the shirt and the transfer, and most often it's visible. So you want to be careful of that. Delint your shirt before you actually do the transfer.